Begin.
Alright, so I'll start off with question 1. If that's okay. So on site 4, I quoted that he promised free elections and to end American dominance of their economy.
Yeah, I also found something like that. Because in his goals, he said he wanted us to make it a democracy, which obviously didn't happen.
Yeah, because I think we should first say the question.
Yeah.
What was Fidel Castro's goal in leading the revolution?
I wrote to make it a democracy and to improve people's education.
I wrote to take control because I felt like in his childhood, like he didn't really have control because his parents weren't married. And so, like, you don't really have control where you go, you know? Yeah. It's like crisscross, and I felt like, you know, people who come, I'm not saying all people, but some people who come from that rough background sometimes want to take control of their situation, and I felt like maybe that was one of the reasons how I influenced that.
I wrote that he wanted to get rid of Batista.
Yeah. I agree with Mason because, like, I feel like he wanted that power, but then also, like, he could easily come to power too because nobody liked Batista, so he didn't need to be that good of a leader to overthrow him.
I like David's. I think they didn't care who was just as long as it happens when they took over Batista.
I think that one of the really big reasons why was because the education system was really poor, and so he made the education system better, even though he didn't follow through with all of his promises. He did make that.
I'm gonna add on to that because although he did a good job of improving the education and healthcare systems. The system is a key word there because he didn't provide the Cuban people with basic needs. And also freedom of speech and economic opportunity after the revolution.
Did you want to talk?
Yeah, I want to say something. I agree with Cameron and Peter because Peter had said, like I said the first time, Batista, I read that Batista made a lot of promises, but they pursue them, and I agree with Cameron because I had wrote down for the first question that he was trying to overthrow Batista.
Didn't Fidel not go back on his promises too?
Yeah.
Silas, do you want to say anything?
No, not this time.
Okay.
Do you guys think that Fidel met all his goals when leading the revolution?
I feel like he did because he also said he'd be not really an anti-dictator, but not a dictator in the first place because he promised you to have a democracy instead of a autocracy. And to not be corrupt, but then he didn't really follow either of those promises that he made. So he had improved stuff like the education and healthcare systems, but he didn't let most of his promises follow through.
Finn, could you clarify that? Because you kind of just contradicted yourself. Like you said he fulfilled all his promises, and then you said, well, he didn't fulfill these promises.
Well, no, I'm saying he did a little bit of his goal, but not all of it.
Yeah, but
So it's like if you're saying the majority of his promises did not come true, so I'm gonna say he didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't come.
I agree with that.
Cam, I noticed you wanted to say something. Do you want to say it? Oh, okay.
So he obviously one of his goals was to make Cuba a democracy, but when he became a dictator, he kind of became corrupt. So in a way, he kind of became his own enemy.
I agree with that. He turned into Batista.
I think he did, like Finn said, a mixture of both good and bad. Because Fidel, he helped people's education and gave them free healthcare, which I think is amazing. But he did make it an autocracy, and when the Berlin Wall came down, some of his dreams came crashing down.
I just want to say that the Berlin Wall it was a symbol of the USSR being diminished. It wasn't the cause of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You
so
should clarify that.
after the Berlin Wall, it was like Cuba basically, it went on like a budget, like so they had to like start conserving like energy and food, like.
And that's where he started to get a little bit corrupt because he couldn't provide anybody with the basic needs.
Desperation.
Yeah.
I think that his intentions started out pure, but then as things got more desperate.
Because he led a great economy and Cuban and the cameraman, you could tell the economy is fine. He was not corrupt until the revolution and until the USSR died. It all turned right back to Bautista.
Yeah,
Do
you
you,
know.
guys, do you guys think that like him not like the USSR not like being anymore? Do you think that did not that made it so he couldn't meet some of his goals?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%, yeah.
Because we move on to the next question or sound?
Yeah,
Yeah.
We're moving to the next question. What
Wait,
was
wait, guys, go ahead.
No, it's not.
Okay, you go.
We can move into
What were the best and worst choices made for /during the revolution?
I
Did
feel
the
like
revolution
Luca,
work
the
out the
second
way
one.
he originally advised? Why or why not?
I feel like it did go the way he wanted it to go because he wanted to improve the school systems and other things and also take control of Cuba, and he did take control of Cuba and improve the school systems. He had some other goals I don't think he fulfilled, but I think he did do the best. Chase, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I know it's I know exactly what goals he fulfilled and did it, but I wanted to say I don't think Fidel meant like all the stuff that he said. I think he was like deciding like all the stuff like when he said it. Cause like I watched a video at home of like Fidel like talking to people, and he looked like he wasn't sure that he wanted to say the stuff that he was saying.
Yeah. I just wanted to agree with Peter on that point for a minute, but for different reasons. I said this because like usually when you get like these leaders, they don't think super ahead. Like especially in our whatever, because we have a democracy and 4-year terms for presidents, they can't really think this ahead of that 4-year term. And it took 30 years for the Soviet Union to crash out, like because it was like 1989 and like the revolution was successful in like 1959. So it was 30 years. Hold on, can I finish? And usually leaders traditionally, I don't know what was going through his mind, but traditionally do not look that far ahead of it in advance.
Yeah, that's true.
Kevin, do you want to talk?
Yeah, I think that Fidel Castro couldn't keep some of his promises, and one of them was democracy.
I think that it's actually very convenient because one of his goals was to turn it into a democracy and kind of like annihilate the dictator, and in the end he turned it into an autocracy and became a dictator and befriended one, which would be the leader of the USSR.
Do you think that was one of his goals though?
I don't think he was meaning to become one, but I think that that's how it played out.
I'm going to say, because I'm 50-50 on this one, because at first he met his goals, but it's like not his fault. After the USSR died, it wasn't his fault. So like it wasn't his fault because their country got a little corrupt. Because they would still have the economy that they did for the USSR.
Yeah, I agree with this because he did meet like lots of his goals, but since he didn't have the money from the USSR anymore, they weren't in good condition, or like they didn't get enough food or something like that.
Yeah, because they couldn't get their materials.
Chase, you want to
Chase, you want to walk?
I know this is the next question, but this is something that stuck out to me, which is one of the bad things he did. Which is he did a lot of violent acts that I think a lot of people haven't mentioned. Like forced labor on people and just people who didn't support him or he didn't support them. He force them to do stuff that they don't want to do, or force them out of his country.
I saw that.
Chase, do you want to?
Can I just say that?
Yep.
I saw in like one of the articles, I don't remember, but he did some horrific things to gay and lesbian
Yeah.
people, and that was just like, wow.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Hey Chase, do you want to talk?
Why you can finish?
Oh, no, I'm done.
Oh, okay. I wanted to say that he lost most of his friendships trying to take over everything, and he promised a lot of things. He made stuff worse than what Batista had. Cause like Batista had like some bad things and some good things, but when he came, he's made everything even worse.
Yeah, but
I
he also
disagree.
did some really good things with giving people free education, healthcare, and stuff like that.
I disagree with Chase. I don't really think that he did make it better. I think that he really like took what Batista had and made it. He made it better. I think because he gave better school systems. He also gave the people more freedom, and he like kind of put some. I feel like this is kind of like opinion more, but I feel like he made people in Cuba more happy, and people in Cuba like actually like have something like that they were like fighting for, and like they all had an enemy, so they were all working together to defeat him. So they worked together. But I think afterwards, after the revolution, it kind of just all of that ended.
I see that too, but on the counterpoint, but I believe what you're saying too, but some people in Cuba didn't believe that too, that he was a terrible dictator.
I have a follow-up.
Yeah, we can go to
You can go with
I have a follow-up with Chase. When he said that he lost a lot of friends and Allah was trying to take over Cuba, I disagree with that because I think like if anything he gained allies because like by taking over or just trying to defeat Batista, they felt like they just thought it was a good idea. Like everyone just wanted to go against Batista.
Yeah, lots of Cuba are like saying like everybody was happy when he became like most people when he became a dictator, like and then but like and everybody was like there's like a few people like some people were leaving the country though, like since they didn't like him, but most people loved him.
In response to those, I just do want to put it out there for people to remember that one of the main reasons the country and he was corrupt was because nobody had freedom of speech, so they couldn't put on any hatred against Fidel. So there wasn't chances for them to protest against like their rights and what they
Yeah,
had.
we watched like videos in class of like from the documentaries that we watched, and they were like just everybody like people that were trying to leave the country, they were like trying to like hurt them and block them from leaving the country. So like there's some people that didn't say anything, but like lots of people you wouldn't if you didn't like him, you wouldn't go to that like rally kind of
Well,
stuff.
Chase, you want to talk?
Yeah, but I wanted to say something about earlier with I think it was David. David said the thing about the relationship. He lost like
That was fair.
but he lost a lot of friends in the U.S. That's what I was trying to say earlier. I forgot to see that.
Do we
Yeah,
want to move
Cuba
on to the
lost
next
a lot of
question?
Yeah.
Does anyone want to say
Can I
anything?
go?
What were the best choices and worst choices made for the
Can I
revolution?
go first?
Yeah,
This one?
you go, Mason.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm going to contradict myself. So I'm going to say yes and no. So specifically, I think his best chance was making friends with the Soviet Union. I think his worst choice is making friends with the Soviet Union.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I say this because in the heat of the moment, he had his own personal values. Like, hey, the U.S. is like, this is not right that another country gets to be in our business like this. And like, it was kind of like, if I'm enemies with my neighbor, and I already and my other neighbor is enemies with my other neighbor, I'm gonna be friends with that other neighbor who's enemies with my other neighbor. If that makes sense.
I think the best.
And so like I feel like in the heat of the moment, yes, that was the smart in a sense choice for him. But long term, I felt like that hurt him because like the U.S. put an embargo, like, and that kind of like when your neighbor 90 miles away from you turns your back, that like that leaves him wrong.
I think
I think to sum up what Mason said, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
I think that some of the bad choices that he made was not giving people the best house, one second, not giving people the best house here. Because in Cuba, the cameraman, there was a lot of people living in one house.
Yeah. I actually think becoming enemies with USA was good and bad because they get more like people that aren't on USA's side. They like might want to be allies with Cuba to like see what the USA is doing, like what the USSR did.
So on a different note, towards the end of the revolution, Cuba opened itself to tourism, which I think was a good idea. Like considering the USSR just fell, and they needed a way to like regain their economic power.
Yeah.
So everyone went to like the markets to start selling stuff, and just like started to quit their other jobs.
It was the only thing you could get like self-employed by, like that like the government couldn't own. It was the only thing that you could be like, oh, I'm a market owner. Like that was the only thing you could own.
I just think that was a good idea.
I think that a good decision that he made was not really retaliating after the Bay of Pigs because America attacked Cuba, but if he attacked back, it could have caused an entire nuclear war, and it could have ended really bad, but he did not retaliate, which I think was a very good decision.
I don't think it was really like more like it was like it's like a not like really a big I think it was like I think it was a bad choice. But I don't think it was really a choice, but like having it like I don't
Take your time.
I don't really, it wasn't I don't think it was a choice, but like having people not have their freedoms
Yeah, I don't
Because
think
there's another thing. It's called like what is it? Constructive criticizing.
Constructive criticism.
Yeah. It's like you wouldn't be able to. You wouldn't be a good and accepted leader if you can't find problems with your country and economy and leadership skills.
I think that he was pretty
which-
well accepted.
And that made it so that like he couldn't really understand what the Cubans were trying to say and like how they felt about the whole situation.
Hold on, can we let my
What Finn said, I feel like this is a possibility if he let constructive criticism happen when the Soviet Union fell. It might have been able to help him if he got some constructive criticism from his citizens, but since it was illegal, no one did, and it saved life.
I think that
I was just gonna say.
by not like letting people have freedom of speech, maybe he was like scared or like self-conscious about his decisions. Like he wouldn't want people just like talking about how everything bad he did, and then like they just have this new thought like, hey, what if this guy's not so good? We should do
And
this
then
whole
people would
thing.
try to overthrow him.
Yeah, get rid of him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
I
like
think
Boston
that he
said.
wasn't really taking like pointers. Like he wasn't really taking any advice on, like, because if you're just doing everything yourself, you're not taking advice from the people that you're affecting, then you don't really know what you're doing because you're the leader. You don't really have to worry about someone controlling you like the people do, so you should take, like, hints, and I think that was really bad.
Yeah. I'm gonna say
And
another.
then Coach Chase, go use Chase.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Mason. Finally. I wanted to say some good things about Fidel is that he gave a lot of people. Well, he gave everyone free food and housing and stuff like that.
I wouldn't
But
even say
on a different note, I feel like Peter, the thing you said about USA attacking Cuba, I feel like they're like you don't really have a choice since USA was so powerful. Like if you did attack them, like that just wouldn't be a good choice for you.
I agree, but I also disagree because they also had the USSR, and the USSR had like nukes and missiles and
Yeah, but
submarines
USA's allies
everywhere.
had like a ton of stuff like
I
that.
know, but if I said it would cause a nuclear war. So
Yeah,
if they
yeah.
fired a missile after we attacked, then we'd fire a missile back, and then our allies might fire one, and then it just ends up and everything's
I do have something to go on with that. It might be repetitive to what Mason said a while ago, but I say like if he had like stayed in America instead of switching to being allies with their enemy Soviet Union, they could have stayed steady like until here. Like they could have still been like they could have had a good economy, and they wouldn't have because they were fine with America. I'm pretty sure, and they did after they moved with the Soviet Union. It's like as soon as they did that, then the Soviet Union died, and then they couldn't get any help from them. And since they hadn't really been independent ever, Cuba, there wasn't a chance of them. They didn't know how to lead on their own.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that because like if they stayed with USA, it would have been like more like steady. It wouldn't have like it wouldn't be like since the USSR like disbanded, it wouldn't be just like it goes they're doing really well and then really bad and then good and then bad. So, but if they stay with the USA, I feel like they would have gotten more steady.
to counter something. Oh, Chase, you can.
I agree with Finn a lot.
Peter, could you go on that?
To counter what Mason said at the beginning, where he was saying that friending the USSR was not a very good decision. I don't really agree with that because I feel like the U.S. and the Cuba's relationship was going to end soon anyways because U.S. was really like on board with Batista because they just liked him and how he was like letting America kind of control Cuba. And then when Batista was overthrown, I don't think that their relationship was going to end much longer because Fidel Castro wasn't going to let U.S. kind of.
Peter wasn't though because like Fidel like after the revolution supported the USSR, and I'm going kind of back and forth. But David, what did you say? I thought I was going to say something on that.
Well, I know as a kid he did support one of the U.S. presidents. I don't remember which one it was, or he liked his methods. But yeah.
Chase, you want to talk? No, I was gonna add to you guys. We're gonna move on to the next one.
Yeah, I agree with that.
What is it?
It's what long-term effects has the revolution had on Cuba and other countries?
Wait, so earlier effects as in like when the wall was torn down?
No,
Well,
the
like,
revolution.
how it has like events that have led up
Batista
today.
stopped. Like when Batista was took him.
Okay, never mind. I think I want.
This one kind of connects with the last question because a lot of the choices had long-term effects, and most of them actually did, because those choices were all made in kind of a short period of time, and the big choices definitely had all long-term effects.
Yeah,
I
like
just had
that.
I have one thing like like for the last one just real quick. I don't think it ever would have worked out with the USA and Cuba because I think Russia was always eager for Cuba as like a gateway to the Americas, and since like as we said, we both had like really powerful bombs and stuff. We've been back and forth and back and forth. It just never
Can we
worked.
let Milo go? I think she said something.
I think that what the revolution changed the citizens' point of view on things. Because if the revolution didn't happen, Castro was always involved. I feel like he would have been taken down much quicker. But because of Batista, they saw different sides of him than everyone else did. Because they were trapped in the control of Batista and Castro freed them. So it's kind of like they're in his debt or something.
I feel like the revolution wasn't that it didn't end out well. Like they're talking about today, because Fidel became like a dictator, so he was gonna be the dictator till he died, and so they weren't really ready for him to lead, and so just recently he died, and so now they have a leader. Like they don't really have the best leader. They're not in the best. They don't have the best economy because he just left. He passed away, so he in the end he was actually like a pretty good leader. He kind of led Cuba economically. He was good, not like with good decisions. But so now their new leader isn't really making good economic choices, and just Cuba isn't in a very good position because they weren't ready to lose.
I think good Cameron go. He's like
I think a lot of people were immigrating to the USA or many other countries to create a life for Cuba.
Cameron, sorry, Chase.
I know like, but when Batista was like in power, like a lot of people was like starving and stuff, and when Fidel came, like he gave away free food to like the people that were starving when Batista was in power. He like fed all those people that were starving at first. That's why some people liked him, some people didn't.
I feel like that is true that he gave them food, but I don't think that's a very good like yeah, it's not like a long-term effect. And also that wasn't really one of the good things he did. Well, it wasn't.
Can I stop you right there for a minute? When you're starving, like think about this like when you're starving and someone gives you a loaf of bread, you're gonna think they're like an angel.
Yeah, I know, but like it was a really good thing he did, but he also only gave them like rations. He
But
didn't
that's
really
all
give
the
them.
money the country had. He gave them as much as he could give.
Yeah, and I think it's a bad thing that he didn't work with USA because if he would have kept working with them instead of like bread or something, he could have probably given them.
Yeah, and it would have been like USA could have given them more stuff because they're closer, so it cost us to ship.
Yeah,
all
and
the
we have
stuff.
way more stores. And we have Walmart, Targets, and all that extra stuff.
Can I say something real fast? I'm gonna go back a minute to the other question. I was gonna say I don't remember who it was, either Chase, Finn, or Peter mentioned like if we would have sided with the USA, like things would have been different, and but like they said like it would have been smoother, but like time could have changed, you know, like if we sided with if Cuba sided with us, then like that changes the whole effect of the Cold War. That changes Cuba's independence. That changes everything. So like when you tweak one thing at a time, it has like a kind of effect. I'm just gonna say one thing on the question that we are on. I saw that Venezuela, Fidel Castro actually supported Hugo, I don't know how to say his last name, I'm going to spell it out. Chavez. Fidel supported him, and that led Venezuela into poverty. And like, it's amazing how you get to see like the ripple effect of that.
I have one thing to say. If you relate this whole thing to the after World War I, when Germany had to pay reparations, it's like it's very similar because it wasn't for the same reason, but it was definitely the same thing where the supply and demand was like unhinged and very out of control. And people couldn't control the economy. So if you think about it, Fidel Castro, he might have been doing his best. I don't know that for a fact, but he could have been doing all he could have. And like, so you have to kind of double think about that.
Yeah.
That's all we have time for, guys. Everybody, two claps. 1, 2.
Wow.
All right.